Hey, what is up, everybody? I am here to give you guys a movie review. Haven't done that in a while. The last time I did one was in May. Which, if you want to know how I know that, off the top of my head, I looked it up before I started this video out of curiosity. Last one I did was in May. So I'm here to do one now. Um, See, the thing that happened was as I don't really have, when I was in college, I didn't really have this time to sit down and watch movies, and then when I actually did sit down and watch a movie, I didn't have time to do the review afterwards, so that's kind of what happened. I'm here to do a movie review right now. Um, I'm actually kind of ecstatic to do this movie review because I wanted to see this movie for a while. Obviously, as you can tell from the title down below, it's called The Visit. Um, and It came out the day of 9/11, actually. Not the exact date, but in 2015. Originally, that's when it was released, but in New York, it was released on September 8th, so they got to see it earlier than everybody else did. Um, no idea why that is, but going with it. And Wow. Yeah. I really wanted to see this movie. I really wanted to go in the theaters and see this movie. But the problem was when I started school back, I started going back to school at the time, around the time the movie came up, around the time the movie started. And then my mom started working, so because she wanted to see it with us. Yeah, I couldn't do it. And then I wanted my friend. I was gonna go see it with my friend, but he didn't seem interested. That's pretty much why I haven't had time to sit down and watch this movie. So I have time now. I'm gonna sit down and review this movie, and I'm not gonna review the movie talking about going through it chronologically in the orders that they happen, because this movie you can't really do that with. I'm actually going to just kind of because talk about how they create this movie, talk about who the characters are, then kind of talk about what happens in the movie, because that's kind of the way this movie kind of is set up. Um, so let's talk about this movie. So the movie is one of those one of those camera movies, if you've seen know what I'm talking about, where it's not set up like a normal movie is. It shows you with the people holding the camera, and then they film the movie that way. And I like that. I actually kind of like when they film those movies that way. I actually like those movies a little bit better, just because it's cool. It's something you don't really see that often. And it was kind of cool because it's the first time I've seen it happen in a horror movie. Because normally I've only seen it happen like in comedies and stuff like that. So I thought that was kind of cool. And They do have a reason, because I thought that was kind of cool, so that they did it that way. Um, I thought they really made it well, because they used two cameras, I think, doing this episode. One person would be holding the camera, and then if they were going to show it in a different camera view, then they would show it from the other camera. I thought that was kind of cool. Um, and Pretty much what happens. I guess kind of talk about what happens as we meet the first person, Rebecca. Her name is Let me look up her name, because I terrible with name. Oh, sorry, no, that's not my bad. That's my. We meet Paula. Paula Jamieson. Don't know how to say the last name, so you're gonna have to excuse me with that. We meet him, and we meet her, actually, I should say. Um, we meet her, and we find out that she had a falling out with her parents. They had a fight. And they haven't spoke since then. That's because she ended up marrying the main characters, we'll get into in a little later, father, and her parents didn't like their father. They had a feeling something was wrong with him. So pretty much, um, years later, the father ended up. I guess they were having like a lot of fights, and the father ended up meeting up with some other girl, and he left with her. So he pretty much left Paula in the dust, and yeah, the father walked out on the family pretty much, and she's just pretty much a single mother raising two kids, and they hasn't spoken with her parents since then. So obviously, since she has kids, Rebecca and Tyler, um, they asked if they could spend if the her parents asked if they could spend time with their grandkids for a week, and trying to remember where this movie is filmed because it doesn't. I don't think it tells you. I mean, I think it does, but I just don't remember. Like where they have it. Pennsylvania. I think they're in Pennsylvania. So that's where the movie is being filmed, and she was resistant at first, but Tyler and Becca really want to meet their grandparents, and they want to see where their mother grew up as a kid. So pretty much, Paula drive, and Rebecca is huge in the film. She's huge in the documentaries, so she has a ton of cameras. And I thought that was kind of cool. She must have really had to save up big for it, and she's gonna create this as a documentary to show where their mother grew up as a kid, and then what happens? So then they get on the train and leave, and we find out also too that Becca they're obviously mad at their dad for walking out on them, so they've chosen not to put their father in the video, but they have footage of their father. They have yeah, they have their father. They have footage of their father. They're choosing not to use it because they're mad that the father turned their back on him. So when they're doing the documentary, because usually she would sit down throughout the film and ask people questions, and they did a funny scene because Tyler, who wants to be a rapper, he can pretty much rap about anything. He was able to rap about upside down cake or something like that. He rapped about his sister calling and rashed on her on the train, so he really wants to be a rapper. And he's actually a pretty good rapper too. And we find out too that Becca is 15 and Tyler is 13, so they're only 2 years apart. And Tyler is telling about this story about how he was on the football team, and he was I don't know a lot about football, so I'm gonna try, but I know, but he was supposed to stop somebody from making a touchdown, and he wasn't really expecting this question at first. He seemed like he was all cool about it. He was actually kind of flipping it off in the documentary, which I thought was funny. And he says that he just didn't do anything. He didn't tackle the guy or anything. He just let him make the touchdown. And then his father his father just walked out, so he pretty much thinks that so she assumes that he pretty much thinks that's why his father left the family, because he didn't stop a touchdown at a football game. But he says you're stupid, which I'm assuming that's somewhat the reason. And then Becca, her name's Rebecca, but they call her Becca for short in this video. When Becca gets interviewed, Tyler asks her why she never looks in the mirror, because throughout the film we see that she brushes her teeth, and mixes her hair, but she never looks in the mirror. And She also has a shirt on inside out, and she probably like, didn't notice because she didn't look in the mirror. So Tyler says, "Why don't you ever look in the mirror? Are you ashamed of yourself? Are you ashamed of what you look like?" Um, and Tyler even asked her like because we find out she liked the pizza guy, who really isn't the most good-looking guy in the world. As from what he says, he has a face full of acne, zits, and Tyler says that so then Tyler says that so Becca talks about how he just gave me his card. So either what I'm assuming happened is they'll talk about the father who just gave him a code and walked away and walked out of their lives, or the pizza boy who just gave him like a pizza code and he rejected her. So because they brought up the pizza guy like right before that, so she pretty much doesn't thinks that she's worthless and doesn't want to look in the mirror. And they pretty much well during this time they're on this trip. Paula is on vacation and with her boyfriend. They were taking a cruise to the Bahamas, and it shows her because then she sends a video of her having a good time, and they question whether whether their mother would be better off without them. But I'm gonna get into that later on. I just figured I'd talk about the characters a little bit instead before I jump right in, because normally then it gets all jumbled when I try to talk about it. So let's actually talk about what actually happened. So when they get off the train, the grandparents, who they call Nana and Pop Pop, are holding a like a sign to let them know that it's them because obviously they wouldn't know it's them because they haven't seen them before. Probably it said like their names or something like that. And they drive off, and at first, everyone's having a good time. They're cooking, and everything's all fine at first. And then Pop Pop, and we find out too that they used to be counselors at a mental hospital. So remember that because that's gonna get important. Because originally, the grandfather, trying to remember what his name was. Let's see if it tells you. Yeah, and it's been 15 years, by the way, since Paula's seen her grandparents. I probably should have mentioned that. I actually don't even remember saying this, but Robert's actually the father's name, and then he was a high school teacher. Because I'm just reading through the Wikipedia portion of it. So the grandfather, his name is John, and the grandmother's name is Doris. And we find out that the grandmother Doris used to do something else, but I don't remember what it was. Not gonna lie, but John used to work in a factory, and then now he's a farmer, and he does the counseling. So he's a farmer now. So they live in a old house where it looks like a pretty creepy house, and the family has like one of those little swings that you see outside their house, where you tie it to the tree. I thought that was kind of cool because I used to like going on those swings because we used to have one kind of when I was when I was a kid. And but everything seems all fine at first. Nothing, they're just having they're just having family time, and Pop Pop later on in the film when they're about to go to bed says Pop Pop says that the bedtime that since we're old people we go to bed at 9:30. So that's the time they have to go to bed is at 9:30, and they kind of look at this like a joke, saying 9:30, which was actually a good thing that happened. So what happens is late at night, it's like 10:46, and I kind of like to because as it does this documentary, it would talk about the days. So it would say Monday night, and then if it cuts to a different day, it would say what that day is, which I think is cool. And Paul and Becca gets hungry, and she wants to eat. She's hungry. She wants to eat. So she takes the camel, obviously, and because they leave the camera running, I guess at night. I don't know why, but they do. And when she goes downstairs, she sees that Nana is up awake at night, and she throws up, and this causes Becca to run into a room, and this is this is the start of the weird stuff that happens. So then the next morning, everything's fine. Um, um, Nana's making breakfast and all that stuff, and yeah, then it gets really weird. Cause so Rebecca tells John that Nana's sick. So John says it's just like a little stomach bug. Um, and he says it's no big deal. She'll probably fight it off, which obviously makes sense. Um, and when by the way, when they have the strip too, they don't really go out and do anything. They just kind of chill at the place. I would think they want to take them sightseeing, but so the first suspicious thing that happens is they go underneath the house. And they're also not allowed to go in the basement either. They say that there's mold in there. So remember that part of the scene. And they start play. They used to their mother used to play hide and seek there, so they start doing that. And Nana or Doris is under there, and she starts acting really weird. She crawls and acts like they're chasing them, and this scares them obviously. And then when they come out, Nana says that was so much fun, and she's all scraped up. And then when she goes to leave, like one of her ass cheeks was hanging out, which I thought was funny. So that's the first thing, because she was acting really weird when she was chasing them. She was like crawling really weird, and I thought that was cool. And that's the first thing. And even Tyler's like, "What the hell was that?" And then so then Tyler sees John, and he sees him go into the barn and leave the barn, and he tries to say hi to him, but he just looks at him and walks away. And John wants to see what's inside this barn, and when he goes out and see it, he goes to investigate, and he just sees dirty diapers, and he just has like a bunch of them in the barn, and when he runs off, Doris tells Tyler that John has accidents, and he's embarrassed about it, so he hides the diapers in the bone, and then he burns them afterwards. And this is like the first thing that happened, weird thing that happens. And then Doris, so then I think it's the next night. No, I don't think. Oh no, then they go sightseeing. Actually, I forgot about this part. They go sightseeing, and they're looking at like where the mom used to go to high school, and John is looking at this guy, and John thinks he's looking at him funny, thinks he's looking at him suspiciously, so he goes over and tries to attack this guy, and then Becca has to pull him off. Becca and Tyler have to pull him off. And I thought that was cool. And so then the next night, this is obviously Tuesday. So this is the next. So that's I think actually it's the same night. So then they hear stuff happening on the outside again. They hear scratching or something. So when they open the door, they see Doris is naked and she's scratching at the wall. And then they close the door. And they are really suspicious about this. So Becca talks to John about this, and John actually says that Becca, that says that Doris has a, I don't know if it's a like a disease. It's called sundowning. Now I have it up on Google so you that way you know what it is. Um, I don't know how recent this is because it's this article that I'm reading is from August 21st, 2013, and it's a symptom of Asperger's disease and other forms of dementia. I don't know how to say that word. And it's confusion and aggravation worsen in the late afternoon and evening, or as the sun goes down. Symptoms are less pronounced earlier in the day, so they do more with that. Let me see if I can find anything else like with that, like a more simpler definition for it. Um, Let me see if I look up what dementia is. It's like a form of brain disease that causes. So this is what dementia is: a long-term and often gradual decrease in the ability to think and remember that is great enough to affect a person's daily functioning. So pretty much, as the sun goes down, um, Doris becomes a completely different person. Because she's really, she's already kind of nuts anyways. Um, throughout the day, but as the night gets worse, she gets really like, um, she gets really weird. She really starts. She gets worse, if that makes sense. And you're gonna see what I mean by that. I'm not trying to insult anyone that has it. They say a lot of and John says a lot of old people get this disease. And I guess the symptoms are to increase general confusion with a natural light begins to fade and increase shadows appear. And then other ways agitation and mood swings. Individuals may become fairly frustrated with their own confession and as well as aggravated by noise. Individuals found yelling and becoming increasingly upset with their caregiver, which is not uncommon. Other symptoms: mental and physical fatigue increase with the setting of the sun. This fatigue can play a role in the individual's irritability. Tremors may increase and become uncontrollable. Um, an individual may experience an increase in their restless while trying to sleep. Restlessness, that can often lead to pacing and or wandering, which can be potentially harmful for an individual in a confused state. They said what causes it, because it's actually kind of interesting, is while the specific causes of sundowning have not been empirically proven, some evidence suggests that it says circadian rhythm, which is any biological process that displays a endogenous trainability, but that's what causes it. They're not exactly sure though. And that's what she has. The treatment is, if possible, a consistent sleep schedule and daily routine. Yep. Okay. So they other stuff is, if possible, obviously a consistent sleeping schedule and daily routine that a sufferer is conformable with can reduce pretty much a daily sleeping. If the patient's condition permits, have an increased daily activity incorporated into the schedule, it can help promote an early bedtime and need for sleep. So probably when she goes to bed at 9:30, that probably doesn't help. She probably has to go to bed earlier than that. Check for overnapping. Patients may wish to take naps during the day, but unintentionally getting too much sleep will affect nighttime sleep. So maybe that's the problem too. Caffeine is a fast-working brain stimulant, but should be limited at night. If a night sleep, I don't think they have any caffeine in that movie though. Caregivers could try letting patients choose their own sleeping arrangements each night. So I guess that's what they chose is 9:30. I don't know if 9:30 might be the best time. Wherever they feel most comfortable sleeping, as well as allow for a dim light to occupy room to evaluate confession associated with an unfamiliar place. Some evidence supports the use of melatonin to induce sleep. So it's actually pretty interesting when you look this stuff up. But this is pretty much what Doris has. So they do. It gets weirder. But in this scene, John's getting all dressed up, because he's going to a costume party, and John says, Becca's like, I think you're mistaken, and John's like, oh yeah. So there was no costume party, and Doris says, was he really Doris, and it's pretty much a regular thing, because Doris like, was that old crew getting ready for that costume party again? Because he didn't notice this. So then Doris says, I'm at the barn right now. I'm sorry, I got some because she was making something, so she got, I think it was like butterscotch, so she got butterscotch on her webcam, which is a coincidence because they usually Skype Paula, so it's a coincidence that would happen. And then Tyler says, well, maybe is suspicious about these weird activities that happen. So he's wondering if there's something in the basement that they don't want him to see, because he's very he doesn't like germs either. I forgot to mention he always opens the door with a tissue, turns the light off with a tissue. He's one of those germophobic type of people. I'm just gonna eat real quick because it looks good. And then but she doesn't believe him. So then what else happens later on that then gets really weird? Tyler also wants to put out the camera so that way he can see any suspicious activity that's going on. But they say that has something to do going against no, like they have to, since it's a documentary, they have to be in it. That goes against code. But he says like these other reality shows do it all the time. So then sorry about this. But anyhow, then later on in the night, actually earlier I think later on that day, Doris and Rebecca are doing the dishes, and she's not saying anything. She's trying to have conversations about her mother and stuff like that, but they're not saying anything. And Doris asks, would you mind getting inside the oven to clean it? And then, which is like a great line in the movie, because that's like the end of the trailer. It's my favorite, one of my favorite, my second favorite line in the movie, probably. So then she does it, and I thought this was going to be the point where she tries to push her in the oven, but it didn't happen. Because Tyler and Becca had a Skype call with Paula earlier before this happened, and says they're just old, that people do these things. He was talking about like all the weird stuff that was happening, and then the mother says just bear with it with a couple of days, and because he says that they haven't held him yet. So then the next thing that happens is the next night, because it was Wednesday. So Tyler, the grandmother's up to her shenanigans again. This time when they open the door, she's running around with like her arms tied behind her back with like a weird type of crawl, exorcist type of walk. Um, and yeah, it was pretty. It was pretty weird stuff. So then when they go the next day, they go out for a nature walk, and Tyler's making fun of him. So when Doris comes over, I thought he was gonna get caught. And she was gonna go off on him, which I thought would have been hilarious. Thought that would have been awesome. But she says like we saw a bunch of foxes. So when they go up, they by this well, and John is staring at something, but we don't know what it is. So when they try to investigate, it says it was something in the well, but they can't find anything. And that was like the first, but we're gonna find out what he sees later. So then, John, what else happens? So then, Becca. Well, I mean, earlier in the movie too, Becca was trying to interview, Doris for her documentary, and she's asking her like typical type of questions. And sorry about the cat, by the way. I don't know what the cat's doing. And Becca says, well, and Becca asks her a question about her mother, and she just freaks out about this. So that's freaking out about it. And then that was it there. I'm trying to remember if anything else happened before. And then, so then the stuff really starts to get weird, where later on, Becca hears Doris listening to music, and she's walking in a walking chair, laughing, and doing like an evil laugh too. And she taps her on the shoulder and asks Nana, and is like, "Nana, you okay?" And she says, "You have to laugh to keep the donkeys in." So then she says, "I'm just laughing because to keep the donkeys in." And then she tries to choke herself. She was wearing like this scarf, and she was trying to choke herself while she was in the rocking chair. And then she says that line, and I thought that was great. So then she tries to tell John about it, and John has like a gun up to his mouth, like he's gonna shoot himself. But then he says, "I was just cleaning it." And he tells her what happened. She tells him what happened, so this makes them want to put the camera out. They have it set up like over the fireplace where they're not going to see it. It's like they're trying to hide it to see what happens late at night. So then what happens is Doris is doing her normal stuff. She opens this door repeatedly, and then she sees the camera, so she grabs a knife, takes the camera, and goes up to Tyler and Becca's room like she's gonna kill them. So but it doesn't happen. And then the next morning, they're just gonna stay away from them the next day, pretty much, unless Becca tells Tyler to. She tells Tyler stay away from them. But then Becca wants to do an interview with them, so she does an interview with John, and John talks about how when he was working in the factory, he saw this white light. And nobody else saw it. And he ended up getting fired for it, which was a symptom that he has schizophrenia. And another thing too I didn't even mention is earlier on we find out that their grandparents haven't been going to the hospital. We don't know why. So this guy comes over, asks about it, but then Stacy comes over, brings him food, and later on we see Stacy talking to John and Doris, and Tyler says, "I never saw them leave," which is foreshadowing, so remember that line. So what else happens later on in this film? So yeah, he talks about that story, and he's upset because it's the end of their trip. Because they said they're gonna pack, because they're gonna leave anyways. They're gonna have their mom, because Paula's home, so they're gonna have her come pick. They're gonna have their mother come pick them up. So then what happens is Becca interviews Doris, and Doris talks about this story, um, about how there was this pond, and these creatures go under it, and when you go under it, they stay there forever, and then they have antennas, but they're invisible. But he says it's just a story. She says it's just a story. I don't know. She may have schizophrenia too. I'm not sure. And she asks about mom, but then she tells a story. But then she starts freaking out again. So then Becca says, "Well, why don't we tell a story?" Because then she asks, "Do you ever want to see you again?" And then she says, "No." Why don't we tell a story like it's gonna like what actually happened? She uses pretty much a fake story, but it uses the events that happened in her mother's life. Just makes up that it's a fake story. Just says that she doesn't like this story, but then it ends. So then they're acting like they're playing catch. So when John and Doris leave, they go sneak a Skype call because they're able to clean off the webcam this time. I don't know why I did that with the webcam when they brought it up. And John and Tyler at no, not Becca and Tyler are telling Paula, their mother, all this weird stuff that's happened, and she asked where they are, and they said they're right by the barn. She points the the camera at them to show them who they are, and Paula sees who they are, and then Paula says, you're gonna have to listen to me very carefully, because she's like shocked who they are, and then she says, "Those aren't your grandparents," and then they're like, "What?" And she's like, "Have you been staying with them all along? They aren't your grandparents." So then this is when the movie, I was like, swerved. I was caught off guard. I wasn't expecting this. We find out that these weren't Becca and Tyler's grandparents, so they've been staying with strangers pretty much that they don't even know. So then Paula tries to get a hold of the police, but they can't. She can't do it. Because I guess she couldn't get a hold of them. So then she rushes. She's gonna try to call the police from the car. Tells them to leave, find a neighbor, and then but then John and Doris are like, well, let's play a board game tonight. Have a nice family night since it's the last night of your trip. And then they're like, okay. So they didn't leave actually. So they're about to leave though, but then Doris asks Becca to clean the oven again, and she goes to do it, but then Doris closes the oven, and they still acting like that they don't know that they're not their grandparents. They still are in the act, and then so then they end up opening it, and they're gonna play Yahtzee, and John and Tyler go to leave. Say, "Why don't you guys pick teams and we'll run?" And then they open the door. They see Stacy has been hung. They hung Stacy. What do they call that? What do they call that? I don't remember what they call that. So then but then John closed the door and says, "We pick teams. It's young versus old," which I thought that was ironic because that's exactly what it is. So even though Yahtzee, I don't think you play with teams. The last I remember, but whatever. I guess they want to play it their way. So they're rolling the dice, and Becca leaves. Says makes up some lie that the camera's running out. So and John says something too, like when he was at the cafeteria, he used to be the greatest Yahtzee player. He's like, and Becca's like, cafeteria? Because I was suspicious that he would say that. So then when they start, so when Becca leaves and forces Tyler to stay with these people, which was stupid that they would split up because it was just a dumb idea. So then Tyler. So then it starts getting later because then John rolls, and then when it gets later, he just gets up and walks away for no reason. And Doris um rolls the dice, and Tyler like, what time is it? And it's most likely after 9:30. So when Doris rolls the dice, she screams Yahtzee, which was the greatest line in the movie. And then Becca is going downstairs. Well, I guess I can actually talk about this all at once. So then when because when it comes back from showing Becca's part of the scene, um, Doris is like this, standing on a chair. So John's gonna put her back in a room. Um, and Becca's downstairs doing all this, and she looks and she wants to see. She says she goes to see what's in the basement, what the secret is, and she goes downstairs and she looks like, I guess, in the dumpster down there. Um, and she sees what their real grandparents look like, and um, they also see like the Milton shirts, and then Becca sees a hammer that's all bloodied and it's pretty banged up, like it's been used to kill somebody. And then when looks in there, she sees her grandparents have been killed. So we find out that these two people were and so then John sees. So then she gets scared and she goes to say, "Okay, this is Rebecca, and if you find this," but then John sees that that he sees this, and he says that they were patients and they would talk about their grandkids all the time, and he says that they always wanted to have grandkids, so they escaped the home and they wanted to experience having grandkids for a week. And he says, "Wasn't this a perfect week?" So then he grabs Becca and starts smangling her, starts dragging her upstairs. And then when he cuts back, we see that Tyler's been laid out. He has a big bruise on his face. So then he throws Becca upstairs, locks the door, and there's like a huge lock on it that she can't get out from the inside. And then they're separated. Tyler's dealing with John, and Becca is dealing with because she's home up there alone with Doris. And so I'm just gonna talk about what happens with them all at once. I'll talk about so Becca has to deal with Doris, and she looks at the door, and Doris is like creepier and creepier. And pretty much what happens is Doris just trying to eat Becca. So Becca is is gonna look in the mirror for the first time. So she opens her eyes, and behind her, Becca is like upstairs creepily with a blanket under a blanket, and she slams Becca into the mirror, but Becca is able to grab a piece of it, and Doris tries to eat Becca, and Becca stabs Doris repeatedly with a broken part of the mirror. And then to get out of there, she uses her camera and smashes the lock. And then Tyler takes because then John and Tyler, when they were alone while this was happening, John acted like he had to go to that Halloween party then, so he got all dressed up for it. He even took his pants off like he was removing something, and he smushes because he had an accident, so he smushes the dirty diaper right into Tyler's face. And behind Becca tries to sneak attack him, but he sees it coming, and then Tyler tackles John and beats the crap out of him with a refrigerator door, which I thought was awesome. So pretty much they've been killed off. So then the police show up and take the kids away, and Paula was there too. And then the aftermath, when they get back, Paula tells the story about what happened with her grandparents, talking about how she wanted to marry these people, but her parents wouldn't let them. So she says that she ended up hitting her mother, and then her father hit her, and then she ended up leaving. And about, I think they said about years later, they tried to contact her, but she wouldn't take their call. She went to therapy sessions, took medication, to get over this stuff. And she said that she always had the opportunity to make up with them, but she just never took it. So she tells, because now she never has the chance again, she tells Becca to never hold in grudges. And then Becca understands. She says not to hold in anger. So then this causes Becca to, ends up using the footage of her father um, at the end of the movie, which shows that she's not angry at her father anymore, which I thought that was a nice. And then the end of the movie comes when Tyler's rapping, because he wanted to have his own rap included in this documentary, and Tyler's rapping about everything that happened afterwards. And then that was it. I thought that was the end of the film, and overall, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was great. And you know, it's a really slow built movie, but I like it. Once it really gets good towards the end, but I like the way they slowly build stuff up about how it happens. I like the documentary stuff they did, the stuff that the grandparents that happened with their grandparents. The quote with the Yahtzee. I thought that overall this was a great movie, and I really enjoyed it. So if I totally would recommend you see this movie if you have a chance. It's on demand, so you can buy it if you want. But that's pretty much it, guys. I'm going to close off this video because I got dinner sitting right here. As you saw, I was kind of munching at it a little bit, and I never really got a chance to eat it, so I'm going to eat it now because it's probably cold. And that's pretty much it, guys. You guys can subscribe to the channel for future content because I'm going to try to upload a lot more content this week. And you guys can also subscribe to my CM Brothers channel and subscribe to other stuff down below, and like those Facebook pages and all that stuff. And that's pretty much it, guys. Talk to you later.